Okay, so hello world. Anyone out there watching us? Copywriters, content writers, people that just happen to have stumbled upon this. So this is the fourth day that I'm talking to copywriters, basically about, I guess, the state of copy, ways to kind of get our pitches out there, not just pitches, but kind of how to stay active and stay efficient in this weird time that we're all in. So today I'm really happy to chat with a dude that I've, I don't know, kind of known for a little while just through circles on the internet. And for some reason, when people think about copywriter, they think about this guy. I don't know what he did. I don't know what he did to get there, but hey, how's it going, Joel?
Good. It's like a long day and a weird time. Like saying hello world at the beginning of a broadcast just reminds me of, like, for some reason when you said it, like the radio stations in Fallout 3 or like those video games. If you ever played it, just like, man, what a like boring dystopia we're living in where just everything's like gray and exploded. Like people are at home eating carbs.
Yeah.
But I'm good. I'm excited to chat and hopefully bring some levity to my day and everybody else's.
Yeah, we're living in it's like the exact opposite of Fallout, what we're all living right now. So it is
Yeah.
less explosions and a lot less activity in general, let's say. But
Yeah.
we're living. So yeah, let's jump right in. So I guess one of the things that I wanted to kind of start with, so kind of this whole week we've been talking about like specific strategies and how to pitch, what to say, kind of ways to actually get in front of the people that people need to get in front of. But what I want to ask you, just kind of, what do you think about like the state that we're in? So we're about a month and a half in of like this bizarro times of, people are starting to lose clients, people are starting to gain new clients, see new opportunities. How would you describe kind of just like the state that we're currently in for copywriters? And I guess just kind of for freelancers in general.
Yeah. I think yeah, I get to sit in a different seat than I think a lot of other people are in because I've deliberately over the past few years tried to differentiate myself and niche down and serve a particular audience and build my network and be known for the things that I do, right? I've had the privilege, not using that word deliberately, to do things like speak and take on projects with notable brand names and that kind of thing. So not that I'm outside of this. We're all impacted by what's going on right now. But I think two things. Number one, in the immediate, it's making it abundantly clear who has never spent time doing any of those things. I think that the unfortunate thing is that when this happens, the whole mentality of the rich get richer and the poor get poorer, I think you kind of see that in the freelance world where there are people who have been spending the time figuring out, okay, how do I position? How do I get known as the go-to person for X? How do I build connections? Those people, not that we're unimpacted, but I think those people are in a better place than whether it's newcomers or people who've just generally been coasting, doing kind of, not that they're not working hard, but they're so wrapped up in producing the work or taking on anything and everything that they really don't have an identity or a network or a reputation to fall back on. So for them, I think it's gotten harder. And not that it's gotten easier, but I think the people that do have a bit of momentum behind them, it's easier. They've got more wind in the sails to endure right now. But the positive thing for the whole writing community and freelancing on the whole is what you're going to see. And I say this like I'm making a definitive prediction, but I honestly do think we're going to see this. It's tough to hire people right now, full time. It's people are slashing staff, but that doesn't mean that everything grinds to a halt. Right. Emails still need to be published. Ads still need to go out. Companies still need to be, pivoting. Like all of these things, every every major business output requires copy as an input. Mm-hmm. We're in a great position to take advantage of that. And so even if you're not someone who has spent the time building up that reputation, I think we're going to see even a bigger shift towards the quote unquote gig economy, which I hate. but towards freelancing and freelancers and contractors as a viable means of getting things done. And so it's not that you should be despairing if you haven't spent the time building up those things. Now's the time to be doing that, to focus in on, okay, we know it's coming. We know companies are cutting staff. We know that companies are trying to find ways to cut budget. How do I position myself to take advantage of that? And if you haven't done that, now's a great time to be investing in doing that, because you can put yourself in a position to succeed in relatively short order. So that's a very long answer to a very simple question, but that's kind of how I see things right now.
No, it's well said, man. And I think, a lot of writers, writers more in the camp of not having this ongoing content stream already established. They're feeling like they need to, maybe scrap and try and get these jobs just to get the jobs, rather than kind of setting themselves up for, 6 months down the line, 8 months down the line. Because like you said, like these jobs, these companies are still going, these companies are still going to be producing. And like, it's hard to imagine, it's hard to kind of definitively think when this type of climate is going to end. And like,
right,
the way to think about it, like, it's not going to end. So like, if you're just gonna, if you're feeling the heat right now, it's time to set yourself up kind of for that long term.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like we're stupid if we pretend nothing is happening. Like
Right.
anyone out there who's going, oh, it's just business as usual. Like it annoys me to see the people kind of banging their drum, being like, I'm doing so great right now. And like, yeah, we want to frame things up as an opportunity. We want to be real though. Like people are hurting, like the industry is reeling, but companies still have to publish. It's not like everything dried up, but things definitely are changing. For people who work in the travel space, like, yeah, you got hit hard. What are you going to do about it? How are you going to take the skills and abilities, the writing talent you have, the business talent you have, and pivot into something else? So I'm not saying we should turtle. I'm not saying we should put on rose-colored glasses and be like, what a golden age for copywriting. But this is one of those defining moments where like you have an opportunity to, everyone's in it together.
Yeah.
All businesses, like everyone's impacted. So you can either, throw up your hands and say, well, we're screwed. Everything's gone to hell. And if you need to feel some things like that for a while, you don't need my permission, but feel it, like we're all just getting through on the emotional and mental health side of things. But once you're done that, maybe it'll come in waves. Once you're done that, it's time to make some plans and to think about how you can take advantage of change. Because anytime there's a change, there will be winners on the other side and there will be losers. And right now it feels like everybody's losing, but that's not going to be the case. You have an opportunity to change your game plan for the way the game has changed.
Yeah, if the gig economy has been growing in the past, 5 or 10 years, like in the next 2 years, I can't even imagine where it's going to be at. And I think you have like an interesting perspective, because do you still take on freelance work occasionally?
Yeah, I mean, at this point, this is such a pretentious thing to say, but I lean away from calling it freelance. Like I consult, right?
Yeah.
I've been winding down and doing less of the hands-on production, but I still have clients. I still take on projects. And then, I think, which is what you're about to say, I also hire writers, for case study buddies. So.
Yeah, exactly. So you do hire writers as the business owner, and then you also do your consulting on the side. So how are you, kind of, what are you like feeling, or what are you seeing from other business owners, as far as, you touched on it earlier, like they're kind of maybe having to lean towards freelancers and maybe less full-time employees. What is like the general feel there as far as how business owners are kind of approaching this time, and how they're approaching like bringing people onto their team to get stuff done?
Here's the wonderful thing that doesn't sound wonderful, is that it's chaos. You have businesses suddenly needing to look outward who have never had to do that before. Right. They don't have great processes for doing this. They don't even know a lot of times what to expect. They don't have great briefs and strategy docs and the things that maybe we're used to. Why is that a wonderful thing? Because you, as the freelancer, have the ability to step in and differentiate yourself immediately by having a plan and being able to say, hey, listen, I've got a process for this. This is what this looks like. Instead of the pitch everyone else is making right now, which is, I have no work. Can you give me some work? Bring on the work. Where's the work at? Like that's what the panicked people are doing. You have the opportunity as the freelancer, as the consultant, to come in, to brand yourself first and saying, you've got a specific problem and I know how to solve that problem. You're not marketing writing. You're not marketing blog posts. I'm not even marketing case studies. We market from the perspective of, you've got a problem and we're specialized to solve it. We know how to get that done. Let's say you sell content, you're a blog writer. Okay, you're no longer a blog writer. Push that out of your head. What you are now is someone who's coming into this saying, you need a way to consistently publish content that's relevant and compelling through this time. I've got a process for coming up with topics. I've got a process for getting them published. I've got a process that's going to take all the worry and thinking and chaos that you're experiencing right now out of your head. Would you like to work with me? Versus someone coming to that person saying, I'm a writer. And now that person's frantically scrambling, thinking, how do I do this? How do I work with writers? How do I know who's good and who's bad? The playing field has never been more level for you to come in and pitch with a plan, or for you to come in and differentiate yourself as someone who knows how to engage, how to do your job in that context. And if you've been working with clients for a while, or even if you're brand new to it, there's nothing more powerful than being able to say, I've got a process for this. I got a plan for this. I can take this off your hands. I can solve your problem. And that's a wonderful thing. So, I mean, with Case Study Buddy, like, we're not currently, for us, we were well set up, better than most, to deal with this situation because everyone's contractors. We don't have staff, right? So we have the ability to expand and contract our team as we need to, right? We've got our core team that we need to function. And then as we grow, as inquiries come in, like, we were on track to, last year we tripled revenue. This year we're on track to more than, like, to beat that again. Which takes people and takes expertise. So we had all these contractors, that we vetted and had ready to roll. And then this hit. Well, now we have the ability in the short term to contract so we can focus on how do we pivot, how do we respond, and then over time bring people back as things pick up again. And that's the flexibility that we have. But think of other companies who've only had staff. They don't have that. So they're scrambling. They're thinking, okay, how do we contract? How do we make this work with as few people as possible? Which means, again, immediately as the freelancer who can do some strategy, or who can bring a plan or a process to the equation, you're a way more valuable asset and a way easier hire than someone just coming in to write, because you're killing multiple problems for those people.
Yeah. And I think, like you said, basically the only thing that most business owners know right now is that they need to do something. And 99%, they don't know what the hell to do. And I think for the framework, it's like any other time. So obviously having your framework and process is a positive at any time, but now is the time where not only is it make them feel good, but there's going to be way less pushback, I think. And like, when you can kind of come in and say, like, this is what we need to do, then they're going to be like, oh my God, thank you. Like, they're just going to have this weight taken off their shoulders instead of like nitpicking every part and asking every little thing. It's like, they just need some shit done. And if you can confidently say that you can get some shit done, then you're, way ahead of everyone else.
Right. And think about the pitches, right? Like, the worst pitch for a writer to make is just, hey, I'm a writer. I work on this type of thing. By chance, do you need some of this, right? You're counting on the stars to align when you do cold outreach like that. You're counting on them needing what you have, trusting you can do it, having immediate capacity or budget, do it, all of those things, right? Smarter freelancers, smarter writers have always been pitching against problems. So they're always coming in and saying, okay, you've got this problem, but not only can I produce this for you, here's why I'm worth the price I want to charge you. I'm going to take care of the strategy. I'm going to take care of this piece for you. I'm going to make this feel as push button as possible for you, so that, and this is where these values are amplified even more right now, so that you can focus on other things, because you don't have time. This is, if I was cold pitching today, these are literally the words I would use in the email. You don't have time to be editing drafts and chasing people to get things done. You don't have time to be wrangling freelancers like herded cats, right? You're never going to have to chase me. I've got a plan to get this done. After the first couple pieces, your edits are going to be minimal because you've got stuff to do to keep your business going. So you're never going to have to think about the content part again. I'm going to come to you with a plan, tell you how stuff's going. I'm just going to get it done. That's never been a more valuable pitch in the past decade that I can think of than right now, because all they want is to do something, not have to worry about that something, get results from that something so they can go do something else, right? So it's really the receptiveness of people to that type of pitch, I think, is higher than ever because the pain is more acutely felt.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, so I feel like in part as part of, so I mean, I hope everyone watching this just wrote that pitch down, because like that shit will get you paid. But so I think you touched on it too, is like, so one of the reasons that I did reach out, I think, or not one of the reasons, but one of the topics is kind of that disconnect
Right.
between the writers and the business owners. And I think, I mean, you touched on it as far as what the writers are actually, how they can come in, but how do you think a writer can kind of make it push button, as far as like making it super easy for the business owner to just, be able to realistically like trust this person to
Right.
come in and fix their business? Because, a lot of these problems, they're deeper than a case, like deeper than a portfolio sample that you can just show. So that's not really going to, say how well you can solve them and really save their business. So how do you think we can kind of, bridge that gap?
I mean, what questions are people hiring writers going to be asking, right? Make a list, sit down, literally jot this down for yourself and think, okay, if I was going to hire a writer, what would I be concerned about? I'd be concerned about the quality of their work. I'd be concerned about whether or not they know my domain. I'd be concerned about whether or not they can understand my brand and my audience. I'd be concerned about whether or not I'm going to have to chase them on deadlines. I'd be concerned about whether or not, I'm going to have to do things like source images or add the post. And I might not even be concerned about that because I haven't ever gotten that far. But if you preempt my concern with that and say, oh, also, by the way, you're not going to have to worry about, and again, I'm using blog posting as an example, but sourcing images and uploading that because I'm going to take care of that for you. Again, now you proactively solved another problem for me. The number one thing you can do for yourself is to make it look and feel like you're in control. You're not begging for work. You're bringing an opportunity to work with you. You're bringing an opportunity to solve a problem. So I think jot down the questions, take some time and think through, okay, who's my ideal audience? And given that what I'm offering them, what are the questions that they're going to have on a call? Maybe you've already done cold pitching in the past. Maybe you've already had sales conversations. Jot those down, right? What questions do I get? What objections do I get? And have a strategy for countering each one. But I think it really is about packaging it up in a no-lose way. And putting it forward in such a way that it's not just, oh, do you happen to need some blog content, sir, that I could do for you? Yeah. And more, hey, listen, you want to be staying ahead. You want to stay relevant through this time. You want to have content to send out in your newsletter, on your social accounts. Like, go look at what they actually have. Do they have a newsletter? Do they have a social account? Do they have a case study or resources section? Do they have a sales team? How big is the company, right? And now you can come preemptively saying, hey, I went through. These are the things I think, where I think I could add some value. I'm not sure what your priorities are right now, but if you want to keep sending that newsletter, I can give you content to make it happen. If you want to keep having content, new, fresh stuff to send out and tweet and respond at times, I can make that happen. If you want to launch some campaigns talking about how you're helping customers and staff through this crazy period, I can write a case study for that, right? Like, so, it's the kind of thing where make it easy to buy from you. But address the questions you know they're going to have, or the questions they don't even know they have till they start considering hiring someone. Show them, hey, I've thought of this for you.
Yeah, and it's weird because like as copywriters and content writers, we know how to write copy, but then we totally forget how to put those principles or use those principles in the outreach. Like, lay out the problem for them, like agitate that problem for them, give them a solution. And then, but most copywriters, they just go in, like you said, like, hey, I need a job, please. Like, can I write something cool for you? So I think just taking those principles that we know that we use in our actual work and applying them to outreach is just going to help you.
Right. I mean, what's the number one question every copywriter gets after the first inquiry? Like 99% of the time, it's like, what are the next steps, right? Yeah. Preempt that question.
Right.
Show them the next steps right away, right? I mean, that's power. The ability to put yourself in the position of a guide, a teacher, a consultant versus an employee or a gig worker, that's power, right? And this is a quote I was given in my first years of freelancing that I've never forgotten, has made a world of difference for me. I was talking to my friend Derek, and he said, listen, man, the freelancers that struggle, they say, what do you need? What will you pay me to do it? Right? The people who do really well say, listen, this is the level I'm on. If you want to be on that level, this is what it costs. Now, granted, we're in an exceptional time. Budgets are tight. I get that. But it's still a discussion about this is the value I bring to the table. And if you never want to have to worry about these problems again, or if you want to just operate on this level, hey, here's what it's going to cost you. The first is begging for them to validate and need what you have. The other is saying, no, I know you need what I have, and I know that I can deliver it for you in ways that you haven't even thought of yet. So it's a shift in mindset, but it's a shift in pitch. It's a shift in the way you deliver. And bottom line, I think that's what separates the people who do really well freelancing, the people who don't, is the people who don't bounce from job to job to job because they treat themselves like employees, waiting for some benefactor to bestow on them the great opportunity to write something, anything for anyone. And that's not a way to build a career.
Yeah, and I think you're a good walking example of that because so I follow you on Twitter and I don't know, other places, but I think you do a really good job of making it known that you can help people. Like I think a lot of writers are kind of scared to use social media and like their organic network to like actually tap in and be like, hey, we can do this for people. If you know people that are looking for something like this, make that connection. So you do that really well with Case Study Buddy. And I think you probably got some new business. I'm sure you've gotten lots of new business from those types of tweets and posts. So how would how can somebody that wants to start using their organic network on Facebook, on Twitter, how can they actually tap in without it, coming across awkward or weird or needy?
Right.
Let the world or their network know that they are available.
So there's rocket fuel for this. And if you look at people who've seemingly come out of nowhere, like there's a guy named Sergio Dorn, never heard of him till like a few months ago. Post stuff, he gets lots of traction. What's he doing, right? Do I think he's like the best copywriter on the planet? No. Do I think he's like, some larger than life personality? Not necessarily, but what does he do really well? What's he do that he's really smart about? He solves problems in public. Mm-hmm. That's rocket fuel. He's constantly sharing. For all I know, this guy started writing last year. I have no concept of that. And I think that's an important sidebar is like everybody still thinks when you're freelance, they have this whole mentality of like, I got to scale the ladder. I got to put in my dues. Like, no, like if you're good at what you do, if you take writing copy seriously, if your craft, if the level you're actually on, not the one you wish you were on, if you actually have something valuable to share or put out into the world, nobody gives a crap how long you've been doing this. So I use him as an example, and I wasn't trying to knock him, by the way, when I said, do I think he's the best copywriter in the world? I have no comment on that. I haven't seen any of his actual work, so I don't know. But I think he's a phenomenal audience builder. And how does he do it? The same way I've done it, the same way Joanna Wiebe has done it, the same way Val Geisler has done it, the same way Claire Swellentrop has done it. The tactics differ, but the core is the same. Solve problems in public. So what do I mean by that? Find an audience. Who are you trying to reach? In Sergio's case, it's copywriters. In Val's case, it's software companies. In my case, software companies and agencies with Case Study Buddy. Also other writers, right? And solve the problems they have or teach the things that either you know and do really well or you're learning. Now is not the time to hold things close to the chest. And so, yes, when we look around the industry and we see people like, there's people that make some people recoil, like Sam Ovens or Gary Vaynerchuk, or, some people love them, some people hate them, right? Wouldn't you rather be loved and known or hated and known than just like somewhere in that boring middle where nobody cares you exist? And that's kind of the thing. What do those guys do? They're always publishing. They're always sharing. They're giving things that are useful. So what I did over the course of years is on my Twitter, on my Facebook, on my LinkedIn, you can go back through my history. I'm either just being myself, sharing dumb stuff that hopefully makes people laugh, or I'm teaching and trying to be helpful and sharing something I've learned. Stuff that, and I'm not saying this in an arrogant way, I've given away for free in single posts what some courses don't cover. Like I've written posts in the Copywriter Club. You can go find them now. They're still there. Outlays for how to do certain things that like you would pay $100+ for someone's micro course to teach you the same thing. So it's not a surprise then, or hopefully not a surprise then, that now I've earned people's attention by being genuinely helpful. I haven't tried to pull the wool over people's eyes. I barely sold anything. I have 2 trainings. That's it. That's all I've ever sold since 2013. Working on new stuff now. But for years, I've just been giving it away. And that has put me in a position where, because I've given and given and given, now I get to take. Why do software companies come to me? Because they've seen something I've shared that proved I could solve the problem. So solve problems in public. Give, give, give. Even if you feel like you're an amateur, you know more than someone who's never studied anything in copy. Share a tidbit. Share an idea. Give them the how-to. It's as easy as that. And you're not going to get traction on your first post or your second post or your third post. As you do this over time, you build up a reputation for being helpful. And that's why guys like Sergius can come out of nowhere, because they've just been giving, putting stuff out there. And in a very short period of time, people go, I'm going to follow that person because they're helping me get better. They're helping me do something a little better. So you're the natural choice then at that point to hire.
Yeah. And at the beginning, I said, I don't know how Joel has gotten to be who he is, but like, that's kind of the obvious answer, is that you freely give this information out there, and you're kind of just always top of mind. And that's a thing that copywriters and, freelancers, like, you tell them, like, you need to stay top of mind, and they're like, yeah, okay. But then when it comes to a situation like this, where they need, things are a little bit more chaotic, they need more work, or they want to be more solidified, then they kind of skip that. They throw that away. And then they're just thinking about, how can I get this next job or this next job? And that, I think, man, like, because, obviously momentum is everything. As soon as you kind of throw that out the window, then your next 6 months are screwed.
Totally. And I mean, as an example, outside of everything I just said, right? Look at Andy Raskin. Guy's a brilliant storyteller. What launched his consulting career was being helpful. He published first. I was reading about this today. He published a post on, the storytelling framework Elon Musk used, and was talking about kind of that stuff. And that got a ton of traction with his audience. And he was just sharing and breaking it down, making it useful. And then he launched a piece of content that's been viewed over 2 million times, called the best sales pitch deck or sales deck I've ever seen. And in interviews, he credits that with pretty much launching his consulting career. And he's gone on to help, 75 plus different well-known startups find their message and position. So that's what I mean by solve problems in public. Find a problem that your audience has, or the people you want to work with have, and don't just solve it once, solve it over and over and over. Anyone who's been paying attention to stuff I've been publishing over the last little bit, it's no surprise, Case Study Buddy is trying to, get through this whole situation like everybody else is. And we've been able to coast in the past. Now we're having to work harder for it. But I've been talking in multiple ways on multiple channels with multiple pieces of content about why now is a great time to be publishing case studies. And then I don't just stop there and go, you should be publishing case studies. I talk about, hey, here's what the opportunity looks like. Here's some of the things you can do to start taking advantage, right? I didn't just publish that to LinkedIn once and go, nobody read it, shoot. Mm-hmm. I did it another way. And then I tweaked it, did it another way. And you're not trying to inundate people, but I think that's another false thing people have with social channels. They make it this like eggs in one basket thing, this one and done, where it's like, but I published about that, or I put out that piece and response was not that great. It's like, do it again and again and again, right? Like when you're building a reputation, we get reputations based on what we repeatedly do. Yeah. So when I say Andy Raskin launched that content piece and helped launch his consulting career, that wasn't the only thing he did. He spent years solving those problems, solved them in one big piece and kept talking about that. And that's still his narrative today, talking about those problems. So, find a problem you can solve and solve it in public.
And then I think to kind of make that connection to actual work is to like solve the problem in public and then let people know that you can actually help people with it. Cause I think it's just so easy to post a tip and they're like, right, yeah, so like do that. But then you have to make that transition into, by the way, like I'm the person also that can help you. So I think that's where a lot of writers are just kind of scared to, put it out there that they're available. And it's weird. Like it's a weird, maybe mental block or imposter syndrome. I don't know what it is, but
it's a worthiness thing, man. People think, well, who am I to solve that problem? Right. Who am I to give advice to, the business world? Now, I think that's what it boils down to for a lot of people who aren't comfortable putting themselves out there, is this attitude of like, well, who am I to do that? Why would anybody care what I have to say about this? And I mean, every single person you look up to in copy started from a place of like, who am I? You know, like
Right.
it's not like Joanna Weeb has always been the queen bee of conversion copy. She did the work and then she started talking about it. And to your point, I think, yeah, some of the best solving problems in public tidbits or ways to do is here's how I would solve this.
Mm.
Here's a tip I use when I'm doing this, right? And then you become the natural, you know, people look at that and they go, oh, okay. If they're confident enough, and again, it's like dating, right? Like everyone talks about it's confidence, confidence, confidence. It's confidence, right? Like
Yeah.
what you put out is what you get back. So even if you're quaking in your boots, confidently share, you know, and don't worry that the axe is just waiting to fall. The internet can be mean, sure, but it's not like every troll with a keyboard is just waiting to disagree with you. People genuinely appreciate help when it's, you know, when it's good help.
Right. And like to your point about Sergio, because I've also seen him in the last like 2 weeks. I'm like, who the hell is this guy? And he's everywhere.
Right.
But it's, yeah, you don't need to be at whatever level to give people advice. Like if you know your stuff, like give people advice. So,
Right.
so to that, so how,
If you know your stuff,
if you know your stuff,
please know your stuff.
please. So how, that's a perfect transition. So how, like in this time, can we, or can writers that, you know, because I think to have that confidence, you need to, you know, have a certain, you know, grasp of what you are actually capable of. How can writers and freelancers and creatives like balance this, you know, this focus on making sure your business is okay, getting your posts out there and kind of connecting with your audience, and then also like improving and making sure that you are what you say you are, or are what you want to be. Because you know, recently I've been, you know, there's been a lot of posts I'm sure you've seen in like Copywriter Club and really everywhere, is people asking for book recommendations, course recommendations, what to read. Should I read this swipe file? Should I copy things by hand? Like what have you seen to be like kind of the biggest difference that's not only obvious, not only like helped you become a better writer, but also help you feel or kind of have that confidence to really put your stuff out there?
Well, just the first part first. I mean, the time thing, right? We all get the same number of hours in the day.
Mm.
And there's certain, you'll notice like some people put the bulk of their time into having a megaphone and very little time into actually doing the work
Yeah.
and knowing what the hell they're talking about. And those people drive me crazy. But for me, like it comes and goes in waves, right? Like there are periods where I invest heavily into promotion and like making it known that I can do this thing. And then I'll kind of ride that wave, right? Sometimes those waves go on for years. I mean, I'm still riding the wave that the HubSpot case study created for me. That's, you know, that was a big wave. But I think it's a matter of, okay, we also treat it like it's got to be all or nothing. I mean, if you've got half hour in a day, that's all it takes to like come up with an idea for a tidbit, blast it out onto social, move on with your day. It's like working out. It's like any skill. You get better at it by building consistently, just consistency, just setting a small goal. That's something that's impacted me of late a lot, is just find a small obtainable thing you can do. For me, my two things, because I was getting frustrated, right? Like I'm a dad of a toddler. We got a second one on the way. I run a business, stress is high. I mean, I put on a bunch of weight. So I was like, this is not great, but I don't feel like I have 3 hours a day to go do stuff. So I broke it down. Okay, what are some small goals that I can stick to that will lead to bigger, better habits? So I started with two things, 20 pages of any book a day, just make sure that I was reading, 20 minutes of exercise. And I had to let it all count. I said, if I went for a walk for 20 minutes and got up off my butt, that still counts. And I'm a self-motivated perfectionist, which is not a great thing. So that was hard for me to do, to let go, because I want to be all in or all out, right? But setting small goals, that's one thing I think, rather than like going haywire and being like, I got to read all the books, I got to write all this stuff, I got to copy all the sales letter. Whatever you choose to do it consistently and set a small goal that becomes a big habit. That's made a difference for me. In terms of getting better, there's nothing quite like peer review. So having a small, just find people who are in a similar place where you're at or a little bit above, people you respect, people who are going to give it to you straight. Write stuff and have them critique it or get their feedback on it. Some of the people in my life who I trust with this, Leanna Patch, Jennifer Hayvice, Momoko Price, Momoko Price. Like I send stuff to Momoko knowing she's going to destroy it, and I'm going to be better coming out the other side for it. So find your Momoko, find your Jen, find your Liana, find your people who can give you feedback. That's how we get better. In the absence of feedback from clients, feedback from peers is great and great to have. If you're going to read books, I would say, because the temptation, it's just like courses. People get addicted to courses where it's like, if I just get this next one and this next one and this next one, pick one.
Yeah.
Actually do it, actually apply it, see where you go. I know people who are chronic, they spend thousands on courses. Their completion rate is abysmal.
Yeah.
They never apply anything they learn. So I would say pick one course, one book, and apply the ideas in it. For me this year was Made to Stick. So not even a copywriting book. Fantastic book for copywriters. And I read that book. I took notes on that book. I said, I'm going to start applying this in my LinkedIn posts, in my client work, in my emails. Started applying those principles, and I got better. Because the tendency is to want to eat the whale, get better at everything. Read a book, take a course, apply that one thing, then move on. It doesn't really matter what the book is, what the course is. The matter is in the doing. So get peers, do the work, focus on small habits, small goals that build big habits.
It's weird because like this stuff like applies to literally everything, diet, exercise, anything. It doesn't matter like which method you really choose. As long as you're sticking to it a little bit each day, then it's like you're going to get there. And then to the point of the peer review, peers like reviewing stuff. Like we're like, be even before this, like asking someone to look at your copy. When people ask me to look at their copy, I'm like kind of excited. Like it's fun kind of not tearing them apart, but really, really like looking at it and actually, helping them, because, it's just a second set of eyes is the most valuable thing that a writer can have. And
totally.
And it can be, a little nerve wracking or scary or whatever to get another writer who you deem to be a good writer to look at your work because you're scared of what they might say or how they might judge you. But like, you gotta like get over yourself because it's not that serious. Like somebody is super happy to look at your work.
Yeah. And I mean, if you're going to start anywhere, look for books or courses or people or blog posts. It doesn't even have to be a paid thing. If you're going to start anywhere, right? Like everybody drives me nuts, talks about copy sales letters by hand. I'm sure there's benefit to doing that. Wouldn't it be better to spend time learning a process that's repeatable for every sales letter than just copying sales letters by hand? People are hungry for like the individual examples. Like, I want to learn to write emails like Wistia. And they go like, look at Wistia's emails like, wow. Like focus on assets that will teach you a process. That's why every training I put out are the things that I spend money on for myself. Like 90% of them are just like, what's the process behind this? So you're not going to learn process. You're not going to osmosis that from copying out sales letters. You'll get better. Don't get me wrong. But wouldn't it be better to understand how the person who wrote that was thinking when they wrote it? Wouldn't it be better to spend some time actually getting for yourself? Hey, here's a research and mine are out there. Val's are like, all kinds of people have published things on how they do their jobs, right? So, go find someone you admire and go see, do they have a process page? Have they published how they do certain things? Build yourself some processes. That's going to make you more confident pitching too. Because remember the conversation we just had. Okay, when you can come and say, I have a plan for this, you differentiate yourself. So start with process versus like, how do I find power words? Like, who cares about power words? Like, go build a process.
Yeah, that's good advice, man. Yeah, I think, processes are just going to be key from here on out for everyone, man. It's not only going to just help your pitches get better, but it's just we don't have, like, especially now, like copywriting isn't our whole lives. Like, so if you're trying to be somewhat efficient, obviously everyone's home and everyone has different responsibilities. So if you're going to be efficient, like do something that's going to actually last and that you can work on. And I think especially finding other people's processes, then you can take their process, figure out what you like about it, what you don't like about it, and then you have your own process. And then you're living as a person with a process, which is amazing.
Right. And processes don't leave you. They don't suddenly jettison your brain
Yeah.
you'll build on and improve them. Like if I look back to how I was writing websites in 2013 versus how I do it today, like, yeah, it's very different, but clients I had back then were still happy.
Mm-hmm.
My clients have evolved as I've evolved. My process has gotten better as I've gotten better, right? Like you're not going to start out being like an absolute slayer on everything. But if you have a reason for the way you write what you write or the way you approach a project, that reasoning can get better and better and better with time. And with it, your writing will get better and better and better with time. But if you're just approaching projects, shit, new project, okay, how do I do this? If you're constantly reinventing your process, then your writing, you're constantly having to reinvent the way that you do it. So that's why I like process so much, is it gives you something concrete to anchor in. Why do I do it this way? Why am I writing this way? What pieces am I going out and collecting? Why am I going out and collecting them? And when you know that for yourself, you can communicate that to clients. And that's really what it is for me, is like great writing is clear thinking. Clear thinking is rooted in knowing why you do what you do.
Simple as that. Good stuff, man. So I guess, well, that's all like the official questions I have, but so I guess in general for people looking to professional copywriters of what I can do, like obviously we've touched on a lot of points, but if there's something like you can leave people with to kind of, you know, hope, I don't know, give them a little kick in the ass to get on some of these tips, or not these tips, but kind of just some of this conversation that we've had. What do you think, you know, what can writers do that are freaking out? Like what can they start doing today to just feel a little bit more confident in these next coming months?
Focus on what you can control.
Mm.
You can't control the market, can't control, you know, the state of things. It's out of your control. If you focus on that, if you make your focus the fact that, people aren't replying to my pitches, nobody's liking my stuff, I don't have any projects. If you make that, and don't get me wrong, I get the need to focus on the here and now. I get the need to put food on the table. I'm not suggesting just be like, everything's cool. But what I'm saying is focus on what you can control. And the things you can control are, how do I position myself? What is my process? How do I package up what I'm selling? Who do I go after? You control what you do. You control what you sell and who you sell it to. There's no rule that you can't change from what you're doing today to something more. We put way too much thought, you know, oftentimes when I'm talking to freelancers on like coaching calls or whatever, like, but if I change, like, what about all the equity I built up in this other place? So like, if I stop doing sales pages and I start writing case studies, like, won't people just like forget I do sales pages and I'll be poor and live in it's like, no, like people put way too much stake in like assuming the whole planet knows their entire history. That's why people get hung up on like, well, I haven't been doing this for 20 years, so I can't charge good rates. It's like, no, like only you care about that. So focus on what you can control. And if that is just as simple as setting those, you know, small goals that become big habits, go do that. If that's just being honest with yourself and saying, I don't have a process for the way that I go about this, go fix that. If that's saying, I don't have packages, I haven't made it easy to work with me, my pitch has always been, hey, I do this, do you need it? Versus I've got this incredible packaged way of dealing with this, or I've got a plan for this, go do that. But I think focus on what you can control. And then you'll see when you start doing that, how the tools you have at your disposal have actually equipped you to deal with the new reality we're in. If you don't got tools, you can't build nothing.
Yeah.
Go get the tools, give yourself the tools to navigate this situation instead of just waiting for things to change.
Yeah. No one needs to give permission or like give you like, all right, now's the time. It's like literally like right now you can kind of just be a realist, look at your situation and then just act. Like, you know, it's obviously we get in our heads and worry and stuff like that, but it's really just about action and sticking to a couple actions that you can realistically, you know, keep going and move forward with. So yeah, I appreciate the time, Joel. That was really, really helpful, I think, for a lot of people out there that are freaking out and maybe not even freaking out, but just kind of ready to make some moves. So
yeah, you know, it's okay to freak out. Like
yeah.
I've had my freak out days. I've had my cry days, you know, like for real. Like we're all in this together. And as invincible or confident a front, you know, so many of us put out there, like we're all dealing with it. We got families, we got stuff we got to take care of. But I think I'm not saying ignore that part of yourself, that it's not okay to feel overwhelmed or depressed or sad or worried, any of that. Feel what you gotta. But when you focus on the stuff you can control, and when you get past yourself or commit to getting past yourself, the things you know are holding you back, like, well, I'm not confident, choose to be confident. You can do that. You know, it's a cultivated skill. Confidence for me is rooted in process. Process is something you can control. When you know your process, you can pitch better, all that stuff. So, you know, we're all in this together. I think it's both a horrible time and a fantastic opportunity. And if we can learn to navigate that together, I think we're all, you know, we'll come out of it okay.
Yeah, well said, man. Cool. Well, thank you. Thanks everyone for watching. Thank you, Joel. Appreciate the knowledge. And yeah, go follow Joel on Twitter because he's pretty funny sometimes. So, all right. Thanks, man.
Yeah. Take care.
See ya.